Welcome to Behold. I'm Beth, and today with my good friend Craig, we're going to talk about the actual St. Nicholas. We're going to learn some history, how his life was impacted by the Word of God and salvation, and then kind of how we've gotten to where we end up today with Santa Claus. This is your spoiler alert, so listen before you let your kiddos listen if you have some fun traditions in your home. But be sure and give our show a like, a follow, a share. Email us if you have questions, behold@arcadechurch.com. Here we go. Great.
How you doing, Beth?
That is quite the outfit you have on.
And same to you.
Thank you. For
Yes.
those of you just listening, Craig and I are in our Christmas finery.
Yes, we are.
Craig has antlers, reindeer antlers.
Absolutely antlers. And my wife is probably smiling because I hate wearing these things.
Good job.
And I don't like to wear them alone. So I got a little something for you.
Oh, do you?
I'd like you to go ahead and put these on here.
Okay.
Love
Oh,
little
cute.
snowman.
Little snowman headband.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then for just to add to the ambiance and to fill out the thing, put this around your neck.
Okay. Craig's handing me a Christmas light
Lights,
necklace, and it's
and
blinking
they blink, and you can hit the.
and crackling.
You gotta
Well,
get-
ugh.
there you go.
Okay,
there you
I'm
go.
so glad you
Okay.
gave this to me because I brought my light up necklace.
Oh, there you
But
go.
then when I push the button, only one light works. So thank you.
You're
You
welcome.
saved the
But
Christmas
you need to turn that
day.
off because I'm going to seizure if you don't.
Well, that would be interesting.
That would be on live podcast.
Okay.
Here,
Hold
you
on.
got it?
Where is it? A clicky? What do I
It
do?
is.
It's getting faster.
Quick. Here, I'll take
Sorry,
it off.
everyone.
That's all right. Here we go.
Okay.
I'll turn it off. There we go.
Well,
Good. Whew. That was close.
that was fun.
Yeah.
If you can't see us, Craig and I are both in Christmas sweaters and Christmas headbands, and I have Christmas earrings on.
And I do not have Christmas
We'll have to get
earrings
you
on.
some clip-ons.
No. Negative.
Double dog dare.
So anyway, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, look at this that Ruth had decorated
I
for
know.
us.
Our set is
Did
all
a great job.
Christmasified.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Well, hey, let's start with this.
All
If
right.
you're listening with kiddos around,
Yes.
this is your spoiler alert. We don't want to ruin your family traditions and festivities for the Christmas holiday. So listen first, and then if it's appropriate for your family,
Okay.
then you can have the kids listen.
All right.
So,
Well, before we get to that,
yeah.
favorite Christmas tradition in the Whitney household? Go.
There's so many.
Because you are in Thanksgiving. the other thing,
Thanksgiving-
you're not in no big thing.
Thanksgiving,
Christmas is a thing.
Christmas is a whole thing.
Yeah.
I would say our Christmas Eve tradition of everyone gets one gift and everyone knows that there's pajamas and a Christmas ornament in
Okay.
it. So that's Christmas Eve present. And sometimes it's like, okay, you can open that one thing from that relative who doesn't live here,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
But always the pajamas
Open up the
that
socks.
match,
hmm
and then an ornament that is specific
Now,
to
do you guys
each
get
person.
a family picture with everybody in the
Of
same
course,
pajamas?
of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, your turn.
Well, we don't do it anymore just because we're older.
Okay.
But probably for the first 30, 35 years of our marriage, we would sleep under the tree the first night we decorated it.
That's so fun.
Yeah. And I mean, we did that all when Scott was in college, all through that. And now that floor, it just got harder.
Yeah.
The floors have changed.
They have.
And
It's like
so-
each year it just gets a little harder and a little harder.
Yeah.
Has
yeah,
nothing to do with you.
yeah.
It's the floor.
But my growing up, and
Yeah.
my brother and sister, they listen to this podcast from time to time. But growing up, there's us three kids.
Yeah.
And my mom was evil.
What?
She was evil
Okay.
because they would not put the Christmas presents out until Christmas Eve
Okay.
or Christmas morning early.
Mhm.
But what my mom would do is she would take one present for me, one present for my brother Mark, and one present for my sister Christy. And she'd put them under the tree with other presents,
Yes.
with the name tag facing down.
Oh.
And so I can remember one of my earliest memories is with my brother and my sister guessing which one is our gift. And that would be
That's
for like
fun.
2-3 weeks.
That's fun.
It'd be torture for us to get through that. But it was fun.
That's fun.
And my mom was
It's
that
fun
way.
to have those clever little
Yeah.
things that are just specific to your family
Yeah.
and just
And see,
to highlight.
Debbie has that evil streak, and
I
I
know
have a
she
feeling
does.
you do as well.
Of course.
Yeah, there's this evil.
But it's not at the expense of anyone.
No, it's
Like
not
it's
for
not
fun.
making fun of.
It's building
or-
anticipation
right.
and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so that's good. That's good.
Well,
I'm looking forward to it.
So again, spoiler alert, because
Yep.
here we go.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm just going to go for it.
Go for it, B.
Is there a real Santa Claus? But before you answer that question, put this on.
Oh,
I brought Craig a Santa hat.
you know, everybody on staff is going to be going, I can't believe Craig is wearing this.
Also, would you like one of my Santa Pez? I got a Santa Pez dispenser.
Actually, this fits.
You're welcome.
I mean, I have to special order hats. A Pez dispenser.
Would you like a Pez?
No, thank you. I've never had a Pez. I've never.
Come on.
All right. Do you just
Pull it out.
And-
hmm Craig, for those of you listening and not watching, Craig has experienced his first Pez candy.
I've never had a Pez. And you know what? I'm okay with
Yeah,
that.
they're just kind of meh. The
Yeah.
fun is in the
Yeah.
dispenser.
It may be gone by Christmas. Who knows?
So Santa Pez, I'm just going to put him
Okay,
right
do I have
here.
to wear this the whole episode? Because
It-
I
it's-
will. I
it's-
will.
Oh,
I'm not
I
afraid to.
will.
Okay. All right.
It's up to you. It's up
Okay.
to you.
Okay.
It's up to you.
All right.
Okay, so back to the question. Is there a real Santa Claus? And if so, who was he really?
There was a real Santa Claus, but the
Okay.
Santa Claus that we have now
Mm-hmm.
is million light years
Yeah.
away from the actual Santa Claus.
Okay.
And so you did all the research for
Yeah, I was
Thanksgiving.
just going to interrupt you and be like, okay, time out. This was your research baby.
Yeah, this is my
Thanksgiving
research
was
baby.
my research
Yeah.
baby. So I get to ask the
Yeah.
questions and learn
Yeah.
and pepper you with
Yeah.
obnoxious comments.
And two, because you all know,
yes.
the staff knows that I'm a Scrooge when it comes to Santa Claus.
I was going to say Grinch, but Scrooge
Okay,
is fine.
Grinch is fine too. That's fine. And I'm a Grinch towards the contrived contemporary
Yes.
version of Santa
Yes.
Claus. But it's interesting because a lot of the things that we have centered around the contemporary Santa Claus have its origin going all the way back to the third and fourth century.
Which means like the year 300?
Yeah, 300. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, so the church is, we're talking 1,700 years ago or
Okay.
1,400 years ago.
That's a while ago.
And so, yes, Santa Claus was a real person.
Okay.
His name was Saint Nicholas
Okay.
or Nicholas. And he was born in what is now known as Turkey.
Okay.
And he was born, there was this very strong movement going back around the 3rd century of the strong pietist monastic movement.
What does
where
that mean?
If you become a Christian,
Uh-huh.
you sell all your possessions and you become a hermit or you become a monk in a monastery.
Wow.
Or both. And so that was very, very popular.
Hmm.
Nicholas was from a very, very wealthy family.
Okay.
And his parents died when he was fairly young and left him the entire,
Oh,
fortune.
Okay.
he gave it away.
Oh, because he came to know the Lord.
He came to know the Lord. He came to Christ and he began to give his wealth away. And what he would do is in communities, he really believed in anonymity. He did not want anyone to know who was giving the gifts.
Okay.
And so his reputation in his hometown, where he would go in the dead of night and he'd throw money through the window of families and then keep on walking. And these families, these poor families would
Oh.
wake up. There's money on the floor by the fireplace,
Oh.
or they'd be in the shoe or thrown into the stocking by the fireplace, and they didn't know who it was from.
Okay.
And so
I'm
that's
connecting
kinda-
the dots.
Yeah, that's kind of where we get the idea of the stocking is that
Uh-huh.
started with St. Nicholas because so often people would hang their laundry on the
Mhm.
fireplace and he would drop coins and stuff into the stockings
Wow.
just as a way to give away his wealth and all that.
Okay.
And that's kind of where the idea of secret giving came
Okay.
from. You know,
Mhm.
because we have a big tradition around Christmas that we want to give gifts,
hmm
but we want to keep it a secret till just the last moment when they open the
Right.
gift. And that was very, very important for Nicholas.
Hmm.
There's a story, and always is like the Thanksgiving episode. Where,
Okay.
you know what? This is likely what happened. Some of it's recorded. A lot of it is legend,
Mhm.
but it seems consistent with the person of St.
Okay.
Nicholas. For example, there was a merchant in his hometown after he'd come to Christ. A merchant was in great debt. And
Hmm.
back then, a creditor could not only take your possessions, he could
Mhm.
take your family
Oh, wow.
and use the family to make money to pay off their debt.
Hmm.
And the merchant knew this, and the problem is he had 3 daughters.
Oh.
And he didn't know what to do. And so he got the idea, if I marry off my daughters quickly,
Hmm.
then that means they'll fall under a family name and they'll be safe.
Right.
And I will just go into slavery
Right.
and not my daughters. Nicholas heard about this. And on the night before, but the problem is the merchant didn't have the dowry that he needed
Okay.
to buy the groom.
Right.
This Pej is driving me crazy, Beth.
You still have it?
I still have it. It won't go away. It won't go away.
I feel like I should let you spit it out, but I'm kind of grossed out by that. So,
And so the night before the wedding, when this guy's supposed to come up with a dowry,
yes.
Nicholas shows up in the dead of night,
Oh.
throws a bunch of money into the house,
Hmm.
and then keeps on going. And the merchant woke up with enough money for the dowry. He had no idea where it came from. Paid for the
wow.
dowry. His wife was spared from slavery. The second daughter, a little while later, is coming up to be married.
Mhm.
Nicholas does the exact same thing for this
Wow.
merchant. And by this time, the merchant's thinking, all right, I've got one more daughter. I'm going to find out who did this. And so he stays up. And sure enough, Nicholas shows up, throws a bunch of money, and the merchant catches Nicholas doing that.
Oh.
And Nicholas makes him swear, do not tell anyone,
Uh-huh.
anyone of what I've just done.
Mhm.
And again, that idea of secret gift giving
Mhm.
is huge. In fact, when Nicholas died in 343 AD, on December 6th, that became for the Greek Orthodox St. Nicholas Day. That's when
Oh,
you would give
yeah.
gifts. Is on St. It's before Christmas ever showed up.
Okay, hold on.
Mhm.
I seem to remember several years ago,
Mhm.
Pastor Dan,
Yeah.
when he would host our staff meeting with all his
Yeah.
fun activities,
Yeah.
he didn't give us any warning, but made us take our shoes off and leave them outside the room of the conference. Do you remember that?
I remember. You know what I remember about that? Because that's when
That
we were working together.
There was candy and
There's
oranges
candy.
in our shoes
No,
when we
that's
came
not
out.
what I remember, Beth.
Oh, what do you remember?
I just remember, and the whole staff loved this, that you wore that day non-matching socks.
I had on boots. No one could see my socks. I didn't know anyone was going to see them.
And
That was
we
so embarrassing.
we all had a great laugh on. I do remember that, but that comes from
that's
the
what-
tradition of Saint Nick.
Wait, you don't remember Dan's kindness.
Not really, no.
You remember
I remember the non-matching
mocking
socks.
Beth Whitney.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was all in fun.
Of
I'm
course
sure.
it was. Yes,
I'm
yes,
sure
yes.
it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I do remember that.
That
I
was
do.
so funny.
But there's some really good stories about Saint Nick.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, and I'm trying to persuade our listeners and watchers that the real Saint Nicholas is far more compelling than the traditional contemporary version of Saint Nick.
Okay, hold on. Before you go on,
Yeah.
I have to get in my bag again.
Oh, what now?
Here is a Santa Squishmallow. Has a little ring on it so you can hang on your backpack if you want. Here you go.
I'm not going to hang that on my back.
But here, feel it. It's kind of fun to squish. It's a
just-
Squishmallow.
That's
See?
a stress reliever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll put that right there.
Yeah, put them up there with our
Yeah,
other
right
things.
there with
Okay.
the other things. Thank you for that. Appreciate it
You're
very
welcome.
much, sort of. So anyway,
Sort of.
here's the thing.
Okay, so we're talking about the stories of Saint Nicholas.
stories of Saint
Where'd
Nicholas.
they all come from, right?
Or Greek Orthodox Church.
Okay.
The Greek Orthodox Church. Saint Nicholas is to the Greek Orthodox Church what Peter is to the Roman Catholic Church.
Whoa, that's saying a lot.
That's saying a lot. I mean,
Okay.
he is their patron saint.
Okay.
He is it.
Okay.
And mainly because he's from Turkey. He lived in Turkey.
Yes.
But it is so many really great type of stories about him. For example,
Okay, time out.
Mhm.
Turkey.
Mhm.
So
I'd be Asia
Middle
Minor back then.
Eastern
It wouldn't have been Turkey
country.
back then. It'd been
Right.
Asia Minor.
But not Antarctica.
No,
Not snowy
no, North Pole.
North Pole.
No, not yet.
Okay.
He moves there apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, but we'll
Okay.
get to that in a moment.
Okay.
When the raindrops start falling. But Nicholas obviously was a faithful Christian. He
Mhm.
loved the Lord, and he had a dream of selling all of his possessions and sailing to Israel and living close to where Jesus walked
Okay.
and just living the life of a hermit.
I could see, well, besides the hermit part, I could see
Yeah.
what the appeal
Oh,
of
yeah.
that would be.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Especially not long after Jesus had
Yeah,
been
and
on
this is
earth.
before the Crusades, and
Yep.
so Israel is not tainted by all of that stuff
Okay.
going on there.
Okay.
And so it's still very likely very contemporary to the time of Jesus
Okay.
at that time. On his way, though, his ship stops in Myra, Turkey, which
Okay.
would be Asia Minor back then, but
Okay.
it's Turkey now, Myra. And it turns out that he gets there, and the bishop of Myra had just died.
Oh.
And the people needed to have a bishop. They
Mhm.
had to have that authority figure within their community to exemplify Christ.
Sure.
They found out that Nicholas was a clergyman,
Oh.
a strong believer, so they asked Nicholas to be the bishop.
Uh-huh.
Nicholas didn't want to.
Oh.
And the reason is because during that time, the Emperor Diocletian had launched a global-wide persecution of Christians.
Oh.
And the people he was targeting were bishops.
So Nicholas didn't want the target put on his
He
back.
did not want the target put on his back. I
Okay.
mean, and who would?
Right.
I mean, and from the Romans' perspective, Diocletian wanted to be the one worshipped. He wanted to be the only God worshipped.
Mhm.
And these malcontent Christians were out
Mhm.
there saying he's not a God.
Right.
And so we'll kill the bishops. You cut off the head of the snake dies.
Wow.
And so there were bishops who were being tortured, who were being burnt at the stake,
Hmm.
all kinds of things,
That's
thrown
awful.
into prison.
Yeah.
Some of them did recant,
Oh.
but many of them did not, and they died.
Okay.
For whatever reason, Nicholas said, okay, I'll be the bishop. And guess what happened? He got arrested.
Oh.
Thrown in jail.
Okay.
Thrown in jail as the bishop of Myra.
Okay.
And around about that time, about AD 311,
Okay.
Diocletian gets an intestinal infection of some type, dies,
Oh.
which a deity shouldn't die like that.
Right.
But then the next emperor comes along and he too dies of the same thing.
Wow.
And so now the empire, I'm going around
Yes.
the horn here a
Yes,
little
yes,
bit, all
yes,
right?
yes.
Now the empire is left to 4 different generals who want to be emperor.
Okay.
So when you've got 4 different guys who want to be emperor, and there can only be one emperor, what are you going to have?
Fights.
You're going to have fights. You're going to have battles. And it turns out that 2 of the generals rise to the top. They defeat the other 2 generals.
Okay.
One of them is Constantine, and the other is Maxentius.
Okay.
And so now it's Constantine and Maxentius that are going at each other.
Okay.
Constantine is on his way to Rome because he wants to unseat Maxentius, who's assumed the throne in Rome. And they meet at a place called the Milvian Bridge.
Okay.
Constantine is overmatched. There is no way that he can win.
Okay.
Maxentius has far more troops than Constantine. The night, supposedly, this is how the story goes,
Right.
the night before the battle, Constantine has a dream or a vision.
Okay.
And it's a dream of an image of 2 Greek letters.
Okay.
One is the chi, which is a k sound.
Yes.
And the other is the R sound, which is called a rho.
Okay.
And this is the sign that he saw. This is from the creative department here at RQ.
So you have an X and a P.
Yeah, and the X would be the chi,
Okay.
and the P is the R of the Greek alphabet.
Okay.
And these are the first 2 letters of Christus,
Oh.
Christ. And Constantine gets this image in his mind, and the voice in the dream is saying, under this sign, conquer.
Oh.
And so the next morning, he got up and he put all of the shields and all of the flags, had them made up with this sign, this chi and this rho. And they went out and they defeated Maxentius
Oh.
in the Battle of the Milvian Ridge. Constantine is now the sole ruler, the sole emperor,
Which is why we know his name.
which we know why we know his name. And so now he is saying Christianity is legal.
Okay.
You can,
Which is good news for St. Nicholas.
So St. Nicholas, who's not a saint just yet,
Right.
he gets out of prison and he becomes a very staunch hellfire and brimstone preacher, probably
Oh.
before there was such a thing
Huh.
as hellfire and brimstone. And it's just a great story. Now, to kind of tie a bow on that,
Yep.
the chi and the rho of the symbol, the rho goes away, and now it's just this. This is the symbol of
And you're holding up
Christianity.
a stylized X.
Yes.
So to
Oh, that's
speak.
right. I forget that
Yeah,
people are
that's right.
listening, not watching.
That's
This becomes the symbol. It's called the Christ cross,
right.
where we get the word crisscross. cross my heart, hope to die.
Yeah.
All of those things are about the Christ cross.
Hmm.
For example, when you're signing a legal document and there is a line and someone says, just sign there at the X.
Oh.
That is where the legal document comes from. This is the chi of that.
So you're signing kind of like as a promise on the name of Christ.
Christ is a witness of
Wow.
your signature. We tend to think that it's just an X,
Yeah.
but it actually goes all the way back to the Christ cross.
Wow.
Also, how many times do we get our ire up because someone says Xmas?
Well, it's way shorter to write.
It's way shorter, and that's what this is about.
Because you have the stylized.
The stylized version of the X or the
Yes.
chi, and that's Christ Mass.
So you're saying I can write Xmas.
Yes, and,
with no
and no
guilt.
one can correct you because it's just as Christ-centered as anyone else says it is. And so
I
it's just
love
interesting,
it.
those kinds of things.
That's so cool.
It is. It's kind of fun that way.
Okay, we have another question.
Okay.
But before that, I have another Santa.
What, Beth?
What? This is fun.
I'm glad you're in. This hat's getting really hot.
Oh, you can take it off.
I can. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Fix your hair, though.
Fix it.
That hair. So this Santa, for those of you who
What
are
in
just
the
listening,
world is that?
has on pink and looks a little more rustic. Has a beard. Here you go. You want to hold him?
Okay.
He's holding a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
It's
For those
kinda
of you who aren't
creepy.
watching, you're listening. You're not missing a thing.
Count your blessings.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put him on our display here.
Yeah. There we go.
Right about there.
All right. There we
Okay.
go. Good.
Okay. So the question is,
Yeah.
it seems like all Christians, preachers, believers
Mhm.
kind of get passionate about different issues,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like I'm very pro-life. I'm
Yeah.
passionate about pro-life
Yeah.
issues. What social issue was Nicholas passionate
Oh,
about?
Nicholas would be your kindred spirit.
Okay.
He would be pro-life before there was pro-life.
Okay.
Because back then there would be the exposure of the innocents.
Oh, that
And
sounds awful.
It is very awful. What would happen is a family would give birth to a child. If they did not want the child,
Mm.
then they would simply take it out to the elements and let the wild animals or the exposure kill the child.
Okay.
And Nicholas was an adamant opponent of that.
Hmm.
Adamant. I mean, just very, very aggressive. And he really ignited the Christians in the area of Myra and Turkey to take in these infants when they found them.
Okay.
So the point now where there would still be unwanted infants,
Mhm.
but the people who didn't want the infants, they knew where they could go to give their infant away
Oh, that the Christians
to
would
Christian
take the baby.
families.
Mhm.
And so Christians became this haven for unwanted children. And so Nicholas would be right there with you as far as pro-life is concerned. He was also very adamant about doctrine. He was a
Okay.
crisp theologian. And what had happened, because it was peacetime now, there's no persecution, and Christians don't do well at peacetime.
No.
If we're not fighting evil, we're fighting each other.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, is that there became a controversy in the area around the entire empire. This guy by the name of Arius,
Okay.
he was a worship pastor. Those worship pastors, I tell you. He wrote a song, and the lyrics pointed to what he believed was the truth, and that
Okay.
is that Jesus is an actual son of God. He's less than God.
Oh, sounds like heresy.
And it was heresy. I mean, they fought that and they began to fight. In fact, the Mormons, that's exactly what they believe.
Oh, wow.
They would go back to this time and say, yes, that's what we believe, is that Jesus is someone less than God. Well,
That's hard to even say.
it is. It is very hard. And so this split, not just the church, it split the kingdom. I mean,
Oh.
armies were fighting over
Oh,
this
wow.
stuff.
Okay.
And so Constantine had just said, I've had enough. And so he pays for all of the global bishops, at that time was just the Roman Empire.
Right.
He pays for all the bishops to come to a place called Nicaea, which is right by Myra,
Is there a council there?
Nicene Council, where we
Huh.
get the Nicene Creed. A
Yep.
lot of people that listen to this may have grown up reciting the Nicene
Right,
Creed in their
right.
churches. It's a great creed. And so this council went on for a couple of years.
Okay.
And so it's not just, hey, let's have a meeting from 6 to 8 o'clock
Yeah.
at night and decide this. It went on for quite a while. And all of a sudden they passed that this Arius is a heretic,
Mm-hmm.
and he's kicked out of the church. And when that happened, tradition says, and there are a lot of different people that say this, is that St. Nicholas got up and went over and slapped Arius. Didn't hit him with a
Wow.
closed fist, but slapped him the slap of disgrace.
I kind of wish Chris was in the room.
Yeah. Oh, we could practice.
We could.
Yeah, we could practice that. That would
No,
be
Chris
great.
Vaughn is our worship pastor.
Yeah.
He's on vacation, so we're
Yeah.
doing this without him.
He's
But
great. He's great.
yeah.
So
Wow.
Nicholas has this influence, and because Myra, for example, was a seaport town, Nicholas became the patron saint of sailors.
Oh,
A couple of stories. There was a famine in the land, and some sailors had brought in a lot of grain, and Nicholas convinced them to give him some of the grain for his townspeople.
yep.
And he said, if you give me some of the grain, God will multiply grain for you.
Oh.
And these sailors left. They came back, and they told the story. Yes, it happened.
Oh.
Our grain increased.
Hmm.
Another story goes that there was a storm out, and the townspeople were very, very concerned for their relatives. And so they asked Nicholas to go down to the wharf and pray, and he did, and the storm calmed.
Wow.
And so now Nicholas has become this patron saint of sailors
Absolutely.
that goes all throughout the world. In fact, it's a humongous thing.
Well, didn't you say that the astronauts take?
The Russian astronauts, and the reason for that is because in 988,
Okay.
AD 988, Vladimir becomes a Christian.
And who's Vladimir?
Vladimir was the king of Russia
Okay.
and emperor of Russia. And so Vladimir becomes a Christian. He gets baptized into the Greek Orthodox Church. And who's the patron saint of the Greek Orthodox Church?
Saint Nicholas.
Saint Nicholas.
Yes.
So Saint Nicholas is the patron saint of Russia.
Okay.
That's why a lot of our friends who are Slavic
Yes.
have one of our good friends, Nick,
Yep.
is a Nicholas.
Yep.
Named after, it's a great namesake.
Yes.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that was in 988.
Okay.
Another thing that's a little factoid. This
Yes.
is just this.
I love it.
I love this kind of stuff. In the 13th century, we've got this monk named Francis of Assisi.
We've heard of him.
We've heard of him. And he was very disturbed because by that time, keep in mind, St. Nicholas died in 343.
Okay.
And we're talking 12,
This is like
50,
900 years later.
a long time later. And Francis is concerned about all of the gift giving going around.
Okay.
And because it's taking away from the child Christ.
Okay.
Christ child.
Yeah.
And so he says, you know what? I'm not going to stop people from giving gifts, but we're going to do something to help people remember the Christ child.
Okay.
So he's the first one that kind of invented the nativity scene.
Wow.
And that's kind of where that came from, is that put this nativity
Interesting.
scene, have this thing here so that you can be able to remember the Christ child and understand that. 1517, during the Reformation with Martin Luther,
Yes.
he too is a little upset with All Saints Day and
Yes.
St. Nicholas Day of the giving of the gifts. He didn't like that. But he couldn't get people to stop giving
No.
gifts, and that wasn't going to happen. And so he moved Christmas from December 6th, which is St.
Oh.
Nicholas Day, to December 25th.
Okay.
And people think, well, that's just the Christians adapting the pagan holiday,
Right.
the winter solstice.
Right.
Well, the winter solstice happens from December 19th to December 22nd.
Right. It's not
And
a
so
particular
if
day.
we wanted to mimic the pagans, we would have had Christmas at that particular time.
Mhm.
But there's some evidence that says that Christ really was born in late December.
Oh, wow.
And because, he was conceived in March and we just do the
Right,
months and all that
right.
kind of stuff. And you find out. What's interesting is Christ child in German
Yeah.
is Christkindl,
Okay.
where we get the name Kris Kringle.
Kringle.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kris Kringle,
Oh, no.
I have another Santa for you.
Where do you get this stuff?
I have my ways.
Okay.
I'm holding up a Christmas ornament of a pretty traditional looking Santa,
Yeah.
except he is African American.
He's African American.
So
Good for them.
I showed Kelly Burns
Yeah.
all of my things, and she's like, "Oh, good, one for me." So
Well,
I'm giving this to Kelly after we're done.
I think, and truth be told,
yes,
he
I
was
brought
Turkish.
this out now. Oh, true.
He was Turkish.
So
and so he was probably closer to
Not
that.
like
than
this.
he was
More
closer
like
to
this.
being black than he was closer to being white, is probably
Okay,
the case.
hold on, I got to put this Santa at the good spot.
But, talking about all of these traditions and things, where do we get this kind of a Santa Claus? And
The what we think of like the
Yeah.
Coca-Cola Santa Claus, right?
We get this Santa Claus mainly from the Dutch.
Okay.
The Dutch are the ones, and they would have Sinterklaas,
Okay.
which was Saint Nicholas
Okay.
in Dutch.
Okay.
And But Santa Claus was not riding reindeer or sleighs or whatever. Santa Claus to them would come once a year around Christmas,
Okay.
riding on a white horse. And he'd be dressed as a priest, not as Santa Claus.
That sounds like the book of Revelation.
Exactly. Because they really held to the book of Revelation where Christ rides in victoriously on a white horse and his return. And so they really wanted to mimic that. And so they said, rather than have Christ come once, let's have Saint Nick come every year.
Okay.
But here's the kicker, and this is what is so interesting. In the Dutch culture, in comes Saint Nick riding on a white horse. Right behind him is a character called Zwarte Piet,
Okay.
Black Peter.
Oh.
And Zwarte Piet was a Moor, a Muslim.
Oh.
And at that time,
that sounds a little racist.
At that time, we're talking the 13th century,
Okay.
the 14th
Okay.
century, when the Moors or the Muslims were overtaking the known world at that time.
Okay.
The people were thinking, who is the worst human being we can think of? Well, it would be a Moor.
Okay.
And the Moors were black. And so there would be Zwarte Piet, Black Peter, riding in right behind Saint Nick.
Wow.
And the story would go is that Saint Nick would be carrying his book.
Uh-huh.
And in his book
Uh-huh.
was all the names of the boys and girls who were either naughty or nice. If you were nice, Saint Nick was coming for you. If you were naughty, Zwarte Piet would throw a gunny sack over you and take you into Spain and sell you into slavery.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
what they would,
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, that's what they would tell these children. I mean, my goodness.
Well, that's one way to
worse
get
than
kids to
Halloween.
obey.
I know it. And so it was interesting because I was reading, one guy was interviewed and he's Dutch. And he said, growing up, he's older, he's probably my age.
Okay.
Because I can remember growing up in my Dutch town, when our parents would say, St. Nick is coming, we weren't excited by that.
Oh.
And he said, all of the boys would go to bed with a pocket knife.
Oh.
And they'd go to bed with a pocket knife in case Zwarte Piet threw a gunny sack over there, they could cut themselves out and escape.
Wow.
It was very, very real to us.
Isn't that crazy?
And so obviously Zwarte Piet is gone, but I think he's still around in Norway and
Sure.
Holland and all those kind of places. And it's just.
We think Elf on the Shelf is bad.
I know. I know it. Why is that thing staring at me?
Okay, here's the thing.
All right.
I resisted buying you a Snoop Dogg Santa Claus
Thank you.
because they had one.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Elf
that.
on the Shelf.
Yeah.
You know, Snoop on a stoop.
Yeah,
Anyway, back to, wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
But there's still kind of a bridge between the
Uh-huh.
Dutch form of Sinterklaas and the American form of Santa Claus.
Well, speaking of American Santa Clauses,
What is going on?
last one.
Okay.
I saved either the best or worst for last. Here
Are
I'm
you-
holding up.
Hello.
I'm holding up a fabulous Santa.
He
is bedazzled in
He
gold
is fabulous.
and holding up a disco ball and a silver Christmas tree.
That is so like the original Santa
wanna hold
Claus.
that up,
No,
Craig?
not really, but yeah, okay.
Make him spin around.
Is
Woo!
this on your tree?
No. I went to Walmart this morning. Full
Yeah.
disclosure. If you'd like to purchase any of these items,
Yeah.
our sponsor, Walmart.
All right. Well, real quick, just how did it happen that we get to the Santa Claus that we have today?
Yes. How did he get from
Yeah.
Santa Claus and
Well,
Zwarte
once again, the
Piet?
Dutch came over to the States.
Yes.
And they settled in New Amsterdam, which became New York.
Yes.
And they brought some of the traditions over
Okay.
of Sinterklaas, and it just morphed a little bit because the Norwegians came over as well.
Okay.
And the Norwegians apparently don't ride horses; they ride reindeer.
So this is the whole melting pot idea we kind of talked about on our
In
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving,
episode.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
melting pot where everybody just chips in and does certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Artists like Washington Irving in 1809, they kind of gave Sinterklaas a Norwegian outfit
Okay.
as opposed to a Dutch outfit. This is a name that probably most people don't know. Thomas Nast.
Nope.
He is the one during the Civil War. He is really the first one that drew a painting of Santa Claus encouraging the Union troops.
Oh. So propaganda.
Oh yeah, and so guess who's naughty and nice in that?
Uh-huh.
You know, he goes to the nice of the Union troops
Right.
and the naughty the and it was a jab against the Confederate
Sure.
troops. Thomas Nast is the one who also came up with the Republican donkey or Republican elephant and the Democrat donkey.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he has this kind of
Okay.
influence on this. It wasn't until 1930 when Haddon Sundblom,
Okay.
he is a really well-known artist. He's the one, for example, you probably bought containers of Quaker
Of
Oats.
course.
Well, that Quaker man that's
Yeah.
on there, he's the one who drew that one.
Okay.
Sundblom did. Also, Aunt Jemima. I don't think they have that anymore,
Nope.
but she's the one that came up with the
Okay.
painting of Aunt Jemima.
Okay.
And he's the one who began to draw and paint Santa drinking a Coca-Cola.
Okay.
And for like 30 years,
Yeah.
30 years, Sundblom would paint a different picture
Mhm.
of Santa drinking a Coca-Cola. And historians are saying that really is where
Wow.
we got this contemporary version of Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Is just from mass media.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it just goes. And the thing that I want to draw attention to is that the real Saint Nick is far more compelling
Mm-hmm.
than the one that we have today.
Yeah.
And so, moms and dads, I know we did a spoiler alert at the beginning, and it might be good just if Santa Claus is a big deal for you, it wasn't for us, and I don't think it was for your girls.
No, I've told you about when 4-year-old Jessica told a bunch of nurses.
Tell that story.
Okay.
Yes.
I went to the doctor and we lived away from family. Jessica had to come with me,
Your oldest.
my oldest. So we only had one. She's about 4 years old. And she was waiting for me out in the hallway. And I hear all this uproarious laughter from the nurses from in my room.
Yeah.
And I come out and I'm like, what was so funny? And they're like, we asked her what Santa was bringing her. And she said, Santa's dead. Well, because I told her about Saint Nick.
Yeah, the real one.
And
Yeah.
he was a real
Yeah.
person. He was
Yeah.
good and
Yeah.
kind, but he died.
Yeah.
And so
that's all she
they
heard.
thought that was hilarious
Yeah.
that Santa's
Yeah.
dead. So
And that's fine if you want to make cookies and all that kind
Sure.
of milk and stuff like that. But I think it'd be really great because the real Saint Nicholas was, frankly, the kind of Christian I think we all aspire to be.
absolutely.
He was strong on theology. He really knew he really wanted to believe the right things.
Mhm.
He was an advocate for those who could not speak for themselves, like the infant, like the poor.
Yeah.
And he cared for all peoples everywhere. And it's just a great, great life that has been lived. And yeah, some of those things might be legend, but there's more truth to those things that goes through time and serves the test of time. And so I would just encourage you to really zero in on the real Saint Nick because he is far more courageous,
Yeah.
far more powerful than
A
the
fat guy carrying around a
the fat
naughty and
guy
nice
can-
list.
We don't say fat, we say heavy. Big boned. The big boned
Husky.
Saint Nick. Yeah, husky. There you go.
Pre-diabetic.
Please be on us. would
Okay,
you?
I'm going to
Yeah.
jump into the word, but I'm going to take the headband off.
Oh, why? That's too bad.
Because-
Yeah.
Because I saw a video on Instagram of a guy in a cow suit praying over a group of children that they wouldn't be distracted.
Are you serious?
So I'm taking off the distracting headband
That's a good idea.
while we
Yeah.
read the word
Yeah.
because that feels appropriate. So I'm going to read out of Luke 2 because
Mhm.
we're talking about Christmas.
Yeah.
And what's Christmas without Christ?
Yeah.
It's nothing,
It's nothing.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to read Luke 2, starting in verse 8. And this is probably very familiar to you. In the same region, shepherds were staying out in the fields and keeping watch at night over their flock. Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Don't be afraid, for look, I proclaim to you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Today, in the city of David, a Savior was born for you, who is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be the sign for you. You will find a baby wrapped tightly in cloth and lying in a manger." Suddenly, there was a multitude of the heavenly host with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and peace on earth to people he favors." When the angels had left them and returned to heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go straight to Bethlehem and see what has happened, which the Lord has made known to us." They hurried off and found both Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger. And seeing them, they reported the message they were told about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary was treasuring up all these things in her heart and meditating on them. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had seen and heard, which were just as they had been told.
Story doesn't get old.
No, it doesn't. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, what if you read that versions of that to your kids
Yeah.
over the Christmas season
Yeah.
and focus more on the amazing story of Jesus
Yeah.
and the incredible sight the shepherds got to see and how
Mhm.
the shepherds were probably kids.
Yeah.
And yeah, Santa's fun and the movie Elf is a blast. And we're not saying take the fun out of Christmas,
No.
but just keep your eyes
Yeah.
on Jesus.
Amen.
Keep your eyes on Jesus.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
this was fun, Craig.
Yeah, it was
Thanks
fun.
for the history lesson.
Hey, my pleasure.
On good old Jolly Saint Nick.
Yeah.
That was fascinating. I learned a lot.
Good.
I have
good.
some new
I did too.
new factoids
Yeah,
that are tucked
good,
away.
Good.
Well, hey, we're really glad you joined us. If you have questions or further insight, email us, behold@arcadechurch.com. Like our podcast, give it a rating,
Yeah.
share it with a friend, post it on your social media, do all the things to help get the word out. We love spending time together, but also knowing that you're listening and following along. Until next time, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.